Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 31 of the Calm Mind Podcast. Don't usually do the episode numbers, but this is big for two reasons. Number one, we've eclipsed 30. Number two, we're actually recording this for the first time live to a live audience. So while you're hearing this a week after we recorded it, if you wanted to be here in the live chat when we were doing this, you should have been here on youtube.com/Calm Mind Podcast, where we're streaming. How was that? That felt professional. I'm back on form today.
I don't even know how you do that. I can't say more than a sentence without like mumbling or stumbling because in my mind, only like the next word is in my mind. I can't think of the entire few sentences, ahead of time.
That's easy.
I don't know how that works.
That's easy. You just don't think before you speak. That's how I navigate 90% of life. It's called falling upwards.
I would like to try to test that out, but we are live now, and it would be a bad idea to not think before I say anything.
That's a horrible time. How are you doing this week, mate?
What was this week? Oh yeah, Scarlet and Violet came out. I literally forgot.
Just this little game called Scarlet and Violet. This is a thing called Pokémon. You might have it came out this week.
The question is, do I say everything right now? We're definitely going to talk about our opinions of Scarlet and Violet.
I don't think we have any top of the note shows. Are we not talking our opinions on Scarlet and Violet at all? Is this an opinionless podcast? I thought we might mention throw a couple baggers.
We are.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah.
I just don't know if we should get right into it now, or if I should like whenever you say like a review, are you scared to just say your like flat out opinion in the beginning because then there's less suspense?
Oh, you want to like build up to it?
You don't just say, "Wow, this was the best game ever," or "Wow, I hated it." Like,
wait,
because then that's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear the other parts. So it's like you don't say that in the beginning.
You think this was the best game? No, I'm messing. Yeah, I don't know. Do we? I guess we make the rules of our podcast, so I'm happy to do whatever you want to do. I'll follow your lead, good sir.
What's funny is that. So I just finished making my outline for my review, so I do have all my talking points. But I was also thinking for the review, maybe in the thumbnail, to like put like worst or best Pokemon game or something like that, a little clickbaity. Because I feel like this is probably the one that like, yeah, there are half that think this is the best and half that think this is the worst.
This is super weird, right? Because I was thinking about this because I did a positive video and a negative video. I decided to split my kind of, and again, to call it a review is like loose because I'm like, for me, like I'm just gobbling my opinions out. So I decided that there was a lot of negative I wanted to talk about, but there was still lots of positive, and I was worried that if I put them in the same video, people would just like go away thinking, oh, he hates it or he loves it. And so I've separated them all. But then even in marketing the positive one, it's like marketed like, so here are the things I did like italics on the did, because I wanted to build up suspense for the video where I was talking the negatives. So it's kind of it's a weird marketing thing, but like, yeah, definitely there's a lot of controversy on these ones.
Yeah, we're not going to address the controversy, just literally our opinions about the game and stuff. By the way, in the chat, you guys do not spoil anything about the final parts of the plot, like the culmination of the plot, which is called like The Way Home. Like, I guess people don't really like each part has just Victory Road, Path of Legends, and Starfall Street, and they all culminate in The Way Home. That's the name of the fourth of the climax. Don't talk about the climax, basically. I guess it's like
the Shadow the Hedgehog true ending. It's nothing like the Shadow the Hedgehog true ending at all.
I'm trying to compare it. Oh, I wouldn't compare it because I don't want to spoil what the feeling of it. But my opinion, and I think opinion of a majority of people, it's definitely top tier Pokemon climax.
Yeah, it was pretty. There was I think I'm on board with that.
And that's the most we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Other than like, the music. Dude, was that like you had to have at least felt the music for that?
Oh, I wasn't. Yes, of course I felt the music. I was gonna freak you out. I wasn't listening to the music. Yeah, no, dude, it was good. It was really cool.
Oh my god. So yeah, if you haven't gotten to that, look forward to that part.
We'll talk about that probably in like I don't know, a couple of weeks
next
time.
Episode,
next
probably,
episode, yeah, something like that. Probably before the new year, at least we'll have talked about that. I would have thought.
For the people who are listening later, when the stream is not live, this will come out like 4 weeks after. The next episode will come out in like 3 weeks. So by then, you're allowed to talk about the ending in your own personal podcast.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to the live and you don't want the new Pokemon game spoiled, and you come to a Pokemon podcast live a week later and you haven't played it, I kind of feel like that's on you, buddy. But we won't spoil the ending this week anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah. I think instead of we'll talk about the review later. Or
Okay.
our opinions of the game. Right now, I want to actually talk about the video that you just released.
Yeah, you said you wanted me to remind you, but I didn't even need to remind you because you got this on your mind. What's up, man?
So you just released your top 10 least favorite Pokemon from, or at least design-wise, from the region. And that's normal. Like everybody has their least favorite design. That's not the problem. There isn't actually a problem. But your opinions were weird for some of them.
Okay, which takes didn't you like?
Primarily the first two.
So
which were lower on your list.
Tinkaton line and what was the other
Bombardier? Was Bombardier one of the first few?
No, Bombardier
was towards the end.
Was later. Yeah.
Well, then there was also something in the beginning, but I have a problem with Bombardier. Your Bombardier opinion.
Oh, okay.
Have you read the comments of your video? Because I have.
I've skimmed, and people like Tinkaton and Tinkatink.
Oh, you did? Did you not know that people like Tinkaton?
I did. I sort of got the vibe that other people liked it, but I just was gonna make the video anyway because I knew I didn't like it. It was not a case of oh, I see people like this, I'm going to put it in my video on purpose. I genuinely, it's very much at the bottom. Oh, sorry, I guess top of the bottom 10 list. So it's the one that offends me the least. Like if there was a Pokemon. If there was just one other Pokemon, it would, and there's every chance that this is a Pokemon that in 5 years I'm talking about how much I love it because I've grown to love it. That's fine. But so what was your thing with it? You like it, I assume?
Well, it's not about whether you like it or not. It was more just the reasons that you disliked or liked some of these things. It's never the fact that you like these things or dislike these things.
My reason was that I feel like it's 3 of the same Pokemon, right? It's Pink Child holding hammer.
Yes, that's what your opinion was.
Yes.
What's weird is that there are definitely examples of that in more examples in this region than any other region. For example, I hate Palmont.
Yes, that was also on my list for the same reason.
So I agree with that. But I do not agree that Tinkaton is one of those examples.
Ooh.
Because it's way closer to, for example, Gardevoir, Gothitelle. It's just, it grows up.
Yeah.
And it gets bigger. And things get more fleshed out. So same thing. The hammer gets bigger and more fleshed out. The hair and expression of this Pokemon also changes in terms, and also the size. It's So I don't get it for that line.
Maybe I haven't spent enough time looking at it. I guess my thing is that other than the buck tooth of the baby, I don't really see what traits are growing up. To me, the image I've got, and maybe I've just not spent enough time looking at it. Yeah, but it's just hair. I don't know.
That's literally what Ralph's line is doing too.
Yeah, but that's what Pawmont's doing, right? It gets more hair. That to me isn't
it just
in
gets
itself
hair.
Right.
But
okay.
It's the same exact Pokemon stretched out gets hair.
Okay, all right. Well, fair enough.
And also the concept doesn't change or isn't expanded. It just grows up. I hate when that happens in Pokemon. And it's also the same exact color, same exact thing. I get that, which is technically, it's the same thing in, let's say, Gardevoir, Gothitelle, and also now Tinkaton. But Tinkaton, the whole expression and hair and teeth and face are completely different, which is in each one.
In my mind, I see them all as the same thing, so it's just possible that I haven't spent enough time with these Pokemon or looking at them, based on a first playthrough,
And more importantly, the hammer literally is
obviously the hammer is the main. That's obviously that gets big, but I do wonder if based on you saying that, if because I try not to be nostalgia blind. If Ralts, Kirlia, and Gardevoir released today, would I have the same criticism?
I don't think so because their vibes are different.
They are different vibes. It's really hard to assess because obviously I love Gardevoir and I think a lot of that is Gen 3 nostalgia, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would say that now. I don't know.
I think it would be closer to, let's say, Gothitelle, because Gardevoir, the concept does change. It goes from tiny Esper to ballerina to the principal ballerina or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And also Guardian Knight.
Gothitelle is literally just like a multi-tiered cake that just gets bigger, right? That's how I see it in my head. It's just several layers. It just gets taller.
I think I like the Tinkaton line more than Gothitelle. So I don't understand.
I don't particularly like Gothitelle or anything, so I wouldn't argue with you. Was there a Pokemon? You obviously haven't made a video. Are you making a video on designs you don't like? Is there anything that's just not standing out to you right now?
I'm gonna do a tier list, and I actually have it ready here. I can talk about some of them.
I also did a tier list, but I don't think I'm uploading it as a video because I did the 10 least favorite. So, I've also got mine, so I'm gonna have it open so that when you say I can see where I put it.
What's crazy is that. Well, first let's go back to Bombardier because that's the other one that I was fine with your opinion, I guess, but I think you misunderstood how its powers work.
Maybe so. In my mind, it's holding its bib up to its mouth with its beak, and then it's got its wings it's using for flying, and so I'm trying to work out what appendage it's using to scoop those rocks up to then throw them down on people.
It goes on the ground, uses its wings or beak birds in real life, they use their beaks to pick up rocks. It puts it in its pouch, in its apron, picks up the apron with its beak, starts flying, and then when it wants to release the rock from its apron, it just opens its mouth.
I thought the implication was that it's carrying more than one rock at once.
Okay, but that doesn't change the situation.
Doesn't it?
So it puts multiple rocks in its pouch.
Isn't that just a bit rubbish? Like, it does all of them at once? It gets... So, hang on. So, it goes down, picks up, 10 rocks, then flies up into the sky, and then lets them all go at once, and then has to go back down and pick them all up. I don't know.
Well, it could release them at different intervals if it wants to,
How?
I'm assuming.
How? No, it can't, because...
Depending on the slack of the... Have you ever, had a pouch of marbles, let's say? You can release them,
clumsily.
One at a time.
Yeah, clumsily.
It's adept at what it does. Okay, who cares about multiple? I wasn't even thinking about... Just put one rock in there.
That's the most rubbish Pokemon in the world. It picks up a rock and flies.
Dropping a rock from the sky at you? A huge boulder. It's not just a rock, it's a whole huge boulder.
Well, this is true. This is true. Okay. I do think there was a misunderstanding on my end of how that would work. I think in my mind, I thought it was carrying around a pouch of rocks, and then it was just somehow dropping them while holding the bib closed. So actually, I agree with you. I think there was a misunderstanding there. So yeah, that's kind of... Yeah, I guess.
Another thing...
I also noticed there's a pouch within its pouch. So maybe that...
It's just a line there, honestly. It's a part of the design. It's supposed to be an apron, basically, because it's like a mother... It's a stork, right? So it has this maternal, look. It's also very pretty, honestly. The face is actually very pretty if you look at it.
Oh, right.
Yes. But the previous episode didn't come out, so they don't even know.
They don't even know yet.
But whatever, it's totally a relatively bland Pokemon compared to other flying types. But I think the concept makes total sense. I actually like the concept.
Okay. The other Pokemon,
especially sorry,
yeah,
we're still talking about this Pokemon, especially as a juxtaposition from the normal stork disposition, which is supposed to be sweet. This is a dark type, so it hates you. It's a terrorist, basically.
I didn't even realize it was a dark type. I'll be honest. That's how little I've given it my attention. Actually, I think that is a truth about the criticism of a lot of when I do a bottom 10 list straight out of the gate. I mean, it's literally been less than a week. Often it is, I don't know enough about this Pokemon. I've just taken a look and made my assessment. So I guarantee you, if you ask me what my list will be in 3 years, or rather what my list now would be from Sword and Shield to where it was, totally different list. With only a couple carryovers.
I was making my tier list for this generation, and I was looking back at my previous tier list, and I was way harsher on those Pokemon for some reason, because now I look back, I'm like, wow, I really liked the previous generation's Pokemon, but I gave Pokemon that I would give now Bs, I gave them Cs and Ds. So I don't understand. Same thing may happen here.
You get time to appreciate the Pokemon more, and I think a big thing for you is when you understand... When you understand a Pokemon's origin and you've researched it a bunch, I know that for you it can improve the Pokemon. And honestly, just seeing the right Pokemon card art or just seeing the right bit of anime is oh yeah, okay, I get it. I'm about that now.
The game is the worst way to see the Pokemon nowadays, especially when it's 3D, because once you see the official art, it looks way better. Once you see it in the anime interacting with other Pokemon, once you see it in the cards, once you see fan art of it, my opinion of every Pokemon goes up, even my least favorites. So it's
Yeah.
kind of annoying.
No, I get that. I sort of have had the moment this generation of, oh, the way I'm going to be enjoying this Pokemon this gen is mostly through the cards, which I'm actually really excited for, to be fair. And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy the game. We'll get there. Were there any Pokemon that you particularly just didn't like, you haven't vibed with?
So everybody in the chat is talking Bramblin. Yes, this is live. We do relative to other live streams, we aren't going to acknowledge the stream as the chat as much unless you're talking about what we are talking about. And a lot of people are talking about Bramblin. Let's talk about Bramblin.
Yeah, it was bottom of my list. Is that a Pokemon?
It is literally the bottom of my list as well.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, actually, that's really reassuring because, like, I feel like when I don't like a Pokemon thing, I almost expect that we'll jump in a call and you'll tell me, like, but Toby, don't you see this? Don't you see that? Kind of like with the Stork, and I guess with the Stork with Bombardier, you've made it clear for me. But like with Bramblin, I'm just like, a Tumbleweed Pokemon could be cool. It could. It just, I mean, Tangela was cool. Just, but then you honestly, you put it next to the other Ghost Grass types. You know. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
So here's what's people are saying in the chat are totally correct, and it's a saving. It's like it's the only thing that's preventing me from making it like an F tier Pokemon. You know what I'm saying? Which is first, seeing it in the overworld, just seeing a Tumbleweed, but realizing that it's a Pokemon is pretty cool. Like it's in the game. It's in the desert in this more Western looking place. So when you have like a Tumbleweed rolling in the background, it's pretty hilarious that, oh wait, that's actually a Pokemon.
Yeah.
But you can do that it could be more interesting if you wanted to have the same concept. The other thing is also it's a prison for souls, basically, right? It looks like a prison, I guess.
Yeah, I see that.
The only other thing, but the thing that sucks is that it's literally just a Tumbleweed, and the eyes are literally just leaves, and that's it. It's like,
yeah.
I actually like the evolve form more. I definitely do like it more, but it's definitely underwhelming for a Tumbleweed Pokemon. But the evolve form is a cool extension of the concept of whatever they wanted to do.
How does it extend it? Because to me, it just looks like a bigger version.
Oh, it has now like an evil face, just like Dumb Eyes.
Yeah. Okay, I see that.
It's basically a Spiritomb in a Tumbleweed.
Yeah, I'll stay with Spiritomb. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a tier above my Bramblin tier.
Got ya.
Which has Palmot. Hate that Pokemon so much. That why is that below? Palmot should be below it, but whatever. Because like I don't hate Bramblin. It's just exactly what I don't want in a Pokemon. Yeah. But it's not a negative. But Palmot is what I hate in a. That's the only Pokemon I hate in this generation.
So I am so on board with you. And I found a full odds random shiny Pawmi in Scarlet, and I was like, of all the shiny, okay, well, fair enough. At least it's a shiny, right? And then I'm playing Violet, find another one. Totally different area of the map. Just like, so I'm like, well, now I've got to use Pawmi, haven't I? Because like, why would I not evolve my shiny?
And it's the worst to evolve. So it's like,
yeah. I just.
What's funny is that people are mentioning my third least favorite Pokemon in the chat. So I guess I have relatively normal opinions on Pokemon.
What's your third least? Hang on, which one is this? Because there's two Pokemon there, and I'm interested.
Someone mentioned King Gambit, but that's not an unpopular Pokemon.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like that's really cool. I think that's
he said but I love King Gambit. Yeah, Rob loves King Gambit. No, Tatsugiri.
You don't like it?
I hate its eyes, and I think the concept is the most simplified version of what you could have done with that concept.
That's fair. It's very middle of the road for me. I don't hate it. I don't like it. It's just middle of the road. I don't hate it's decent.
It as a whole. I just hate the execution of the eyes, of the face.
Do you know what I learned from the Pokedex, which I didn't realize playing the game, is that Dondozo doesn't eat them. It's protecting them by putting them in their mouth. It's not.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that in the game. Because there's a little mini cutscene in the game where you think like one's been eaten, and you're like, oh my goodness, that's so dark. And then when you read the Pokedex, you realize, oh no, there's like a relationship between these Pokemon. I actually find the water Pokemon. There's like Wiglet's evolution, and then there's Tatsugiri and Dondozo, and there's Veluza, and there's a number of the bird Pokemon. And if you like read these Pokedex entries together, there is a really coherent picture of like the ecosystem and food chains in the water of Paldea. It's actually really interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely more food chainy, like origin of the Pokedexes are way more revealing in this generation. Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of them, but the ones I've seen, they're like, this is how this Pokemon came to be, or this is how it eats, or this is...
Mimikyu's got a new Dex entry that says that people only recently identified it as a Pokemon. They previously just thought it was a ghost. And I'm like, that's like such a big lore drop that like, I know we've sort of had that before, but like... They're just like, yeah, we only just realized it's a Pokemon. No, we just thought it was a ghost with a blanket. Oh, okay. Wait, what do you mean a ghost with a like, that raises so many more questions to me than answers.
I mean, a lot, but that's what's so weird, that a lot of the Pokemon are literal ghosts, not just ghost-type Pokemon. So, that is weird.
Then you get into the realm of like which Pokedex entries are fabricated or like because it's now either the Pokedex entries that claim that they actually were ghosts are fabricated, or it's the Pokedex entries that claim that the ghosts are separate from Pokemon are fabricated. And the Pokedex, by the way, has a ghost Pokemon in it. Rotom is like running the whole thing, so, and that's pretty mischievous. So like we really don't know at this point.
Rotom wants ghost rights.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I mean, then those are the only 3 Pokemon that are in, like, my D tier, really. My C tier, like, the order is, so I can't say it was my 4th least favorite Pokemon, really. But the only one that, like, I could talk about, really... I could talk about a lot of them. I'll talk about them in my video. Unless there's one that you want to know my opinion on.
I want to know what you're, like... Without seeing it ahead of time, what was your favorite surprise sort of Pokemon that you didn't know was coming in any way, and you were just like, this has got to be on my team always.
Yeah. Low-Kicks.
Yeah, really cool.
Love Low-Kicks so much. Oh.
Yeah, I can see that actually. That feels like a you Pokemon actually.
Oh, it's 100% a me Pokemon. Yeah. I just love Pokemon that cut. and are cool.
Low-Kicks is super cool. I completely agree with you.
Oh,
go on.
But it's technically in the same tier. So this is I have 4 S tier Pokemon. I don't want to reveal all of them.
No. You don't have to reveal all. That's cool.
But I'll reveal the Pokemon that was definitely the 100% a surprise, because I knew there was going to be a Locust Pokemon in this game. I just didn't know this design. But this was the 100% the most like surprising for me. One of my like favorite Pokemon now is Floragato. The middle stage of Sprigatito. 100% my favorite middle stage Pokemon, at least middle starter stage. Raboot was close, but this one is S tier for me. Oh my god, I love it.
How are you so handsome and intelligent, Ron? You just get it. You just get it. Oh man, yeah, no, like genuinely, I was Team Fuecoco for the whole hype cycle. I did see the starters ahead of time, which was a shame, and like the evolutions and stuff.
Yeah, I saw the evolutions. The starters. That's what I saw.
But like when I saw people start playing and like I was like, I should have picked Sprigatito. Like I think Fuecoco is still my favorite of the starters and stuff, but like I think Floragato in particular as a middle stage is like really cool.
Yeah, like, they couldn't have, like, literally there's no flaw for me.
Yeah,
with that Pokemon, and the color, like I like the contrast of the colors on Meowscarada, but I do prefer. I wish it was a little greener. Like,
no, I agree.
But I have definitely grown. In my opinion of Meowscarada has grown.
I got 2.
Way more than when I first saw it.
I got 2 as well. I want to ask you how you. I don't want to like say too much because I don't want to like spoil it for you. How do you feel about the snail?
So that's the literal one Pokemon that I have not encountered yet. I'm saving that. That's literally the last one that I have.
Fair enough. Well, I'll say no more.
I'll do that tonight probably.
I really enjoyed that Pokemon and everything about those Pokemon.
I've seen it from a distance, by the way, so I know what the snail looks like. Basically, I don't know it really yet though.
I won't get too much into that because like that is some proper late game stuff. And Primate's new evolution, Annihilate, is in my opinion like just blew me out of the water. I knew Primate was getting something when I evolved it, and and like the typing is incredible. It absolutely carried me through the end of the game, because towards the end of the game there's like 4 gyms that are weak to it, which is wild. And it's now like my first level 100 Pokemon in the game, and I love everything about it. I love the texture on it. I love the idea of it. And also I did I'm just gonna say the type is like, it's fighting Ghost. And I did a run through of Pokemon Yellow years ago where I ran with basically 2 Pokemon on my team, which were Gengar and Primeape. And so like, I don't know, there's a weird little connection there for me, but I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, so the only reason I didn't bring it up is because I did see it before the game. So I saw all the evolutions of previous Pokemon and their forms. I saw the starters and their evolutions, and also like the paradox forms and stuff like that. I saw but a lot of those are in my top. That's what's annoying, that like a lot of my favorite Pokemon from this region are related to older Pokemon.
Yeah, that's true.
But when I was making my tier list, I realized there's still a lot of A and B plus tiers and A plus tiers that aren't from. But it does seem like there were way more S tier Pokemon for me in the previous generation, and Pokemon that I was able to use on my team, like Corviknight, and I was a huge fan of Rillaboom. You were not, but I'm a huge fan of Rillaboom.
Yeah.
Like Santa Scorch. There were so many like cool Pokemon that are totally the kind of Pokemon that I like to see in a Pokedex. There weren't many of that in this generation, but it's still like filled out. Like my A plus tier and A tier and A minus tier and S plus tier still filled out compared and is relatively the same size as the previous. So I don't know how that even worked out.
It's by no means my least favorite like new roster of Mons, like at all. Like it's pretty decent. Are we hitting about that time where we should be generating a new a Pokemon for ourselves?
Before we do, let's acknowledge one opinion in the chat. Let's see. Larry is funny.
Oh. That was the opinion?
That's the opinion.
Larry? Oh, the gym leader?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool. I like him. I thought he was an interesting
just making
gym
sure
leader.
you like him.
Yeah, I like him.
Cool.
Okay.
Because, I don't know, some people just gags, some people just don't resonate with some gags in Pokemon games,
No, like, I didn't. But this is the thing about Larry is, like, I didn't need to find it excruciatingly funny to still enjoy it. Like, it was fine. Yeah, okay, a guy called Larry. Okay. But, like, yeah, I liked it enough.
There's another, I can't spoil it, but there's another, like, cool thing about his name. I can't talk about it here.
Okay.
We'll talk about it in the next episode. But nobody's talking about it. I'm the only one who, like, I think I've figured it out or something. I don't know. Okay, let's randomly generate a Pokemon. We literally did not do a segue this time. We just said let's.
Yeah, there was no segue there. Well, but it's like Larry. It's just straight to the point.
This is a weird one to have in the thumbnail. Not in terms of like it's not bad.
We do not need to put this in the thumbnail. We can put one of the many new Pokemon we're talking about if the art exists in the thumbnail.
What's a Pokemon that's okay? Like, oh wait, this is coming out again in 2 weeks. By then, we're allowed to put whatever Pokemon we want in the thumbnail.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah. The Pokemon is Seviper.
Oh, okay. So that's actually a Pokemon that got me hyped for this gen, right?
Yeah, because of the trailer.
Because of the trailer, and it's where I first saw the texture on Seviper, and I was like, wait, we're getting textured Pokemon, and like that was one of the things I was really impressed on within the game is the textures,
Yeah, so the Pokemon, the textures of the Pokemon themselves were the best that they've ever been, because they actually have, texture to the textures, which is really cool. So like, this is the one game I think an invalid criticism would be of the Pokemon models themselves. Maybe the animations were not better than not X and Y. The evolution of the animation was not as good as I wanted it to be in terms of like the move animation. But the actual models themselves are better.
Yes, I agree. Pokemon are in the main series outside of sprite form, and at that point it becomes a debate about art style. Like in the 3D space, they are looking as the best I've ever seen. Maybe Snap is slightly better, new Pokemon Snap, but like, I guess games like Pokken or Smash Bros, but I'm not going to get into that. Like, in terms of like XY, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, like, this is it. It's actually really pretty like it.
Crazy that like 400 Pokemon, they literally just redid models and gave them like really good textures, and technically also had, do you know what what's it called, a normal map is, or a bump map?
No, I have opened a bump map before, but I don't actually know what one is. It's like a model frame, right?
So when you put a bump map on a model, just like you putting a diffuse map, which is a texture, like the texture map.
Yeah,
which
that's
has
right.
The colors and all that. The bump map is basically data that tells the engine how to make light interact with the surface of the model.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, that's right.
So like literally, like if you want to have a rock and you put a bump map of little bumps on it, it'll have bumps, and instead of having to model in those bumps, you just put a bump map that saves a lot of data and polygons and all that.
You're taking me right the way back to like the early years of the channel, chucking 3D models into my videos and not knowing what I'm doing.
Now the question is, some games use normal maps, some games use bump maps, some games use both. I mean, like if it's a feature film, animated film, which is what I studied, they use every kind of map they want because they don't have to worry about that stuff. I think Pokemon uses normal maps. I don't know, but normal map is basically similar to bump map, but it's more comprehensive. So basically, all the Pokemon have like way better maps. Basically, so they also have to model those. Not model. You have to do that too, because the light interacts with them way better than they did in the previous games. Or at least better than Arceus. Because I think in let's say Sword and Shield, I think they're cell shaded. I don't know.
I do like how the Pokemon like there's different bits of it, right? Like I really like the edges of the Pokemon in Sword and Shield, like the kind of outline around them, I guess. But the here like the Pokemon looks good, and then you kind of get to the edge, and then
yeah,
and
they really did like way more in depth than I thought. Like literally every alligator Pokemon has scales, like alligator scales, not just like weird scales. Like every Pokemon has different kinds of scales. Like Seviper scales don't look like the Fuecoco scales,
Yes.
So they really did a good job.
Every Pokemon feels really unique, and like again with Annihilate, seeing those textures for me has always been a big deal and something I've advocated for, because it's like it helps it feel like a real creature rather than a product. And so like I think that is where they have done exceptional. In fact, the textures are probably my favorite, or if not in my top kind of 3 things in the new game. Like I can't not praise how good they look.
But if you want, like, I feel bad for like making you have to talk about positives, even though you had a positive experience relatively.
I did.
So it's like, but then you definitely want to talk about the negatives.
Oh yeah. No, I want to talk about the negatives if you want to know
talk
something.
About everything, basically. I just want to talk about everything.
Because this is the thing, is like, I think people who have just seen the video where I'm being negative don't realize that there's a whole video where I'm talking about the things I love. And the people who have just seen the things that I love, don't realize that there's still plenty in the game that I don't like. And where I come down on it overall is like, there was an enjoyable experience, like worth the money I paid for the game. I'm hugely disappointed in how hard I felt I had to work to find that enjoyable experience. And really? I'm like hugely disappointed in general. Like I couldn't say this is like necessarily like it definitely doesn't beat out like Legends Arceus or even Let's Go, which Let's Go I've grown to love more,
what?
But it doesn't not for me. But that's just where I'm kind of on it. But for me there's enough there that like for me it's like basically the same as Sword and Shield in that like, and we kind of spoke about this off podcast, the highs are so much higher than Sword and Shield. But the lows are that much lower for me that like they're basically the same in my brain as to where I'd be if I'm empirically ranking them based on my personal what mood I happen to be in when I happen to be playing them, and the experience I had. But I was thinking about this. This is the other thing. Your experience of Scarlet and Violet and my experience of Scarlet and Violet are not only different based on the fact that we're different people with different perspectives playing in different environments, but also just based on it seems that loads of people had different experiences of Scarlet and Violet and how the game ran, because it seemed to the issues in the I guess that were at play seem to affect different people to different amounts anyway. So if it's almost like if I said like, oh, I was really disappointed playing Scarlet and Violet, and someone went, well, I really enjoyed it and I don't think it's all that bad, it might literally have not been that bad for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is the problem. Yeah, that's why it's so divisive. They like we are not, even if we did have the same amount of glitches, we are going to have completely different glitches,
Right.
And then based on how many video games, let's say, we play, or how used we are to just video game graphics in general, our opinion on whatever, performance issue is going to happen is going to be completely different. I'm going to be way less sensitive. I am personally way less sensitive to frame rate drops or pop-ins because I'm not a gamer. It's just not my hobby is not gaming. And it's okay for me to play a Pokemon game if I haven't played other Pokemon games. So but you shouldn't expect me to now be as sensitive to, let's say, frame rate, because I don't know what the frame rate of other bigger games are. To me, 12 is bad. I know. But
sure. I get what you're saying, though. Yeah.
But for example, let's say 20 frames per second, which is apparently not ideal. I'm like, how? That seems like way more than enough to enjoy a Pokemon game, because it's not like why do I need more? What? I don't know.
It's that way you don't know what you're missing out on until you have it. It's like when you switch from SCART. No one's gonna know what this is anymore. It's too old now. It's from SCART to HDMI, and then you go back and you're like, wait, we were playing on that the whole time. But in your head, when you play a remake of something, right? And you're like, but this is always what it looked like. And then you go back and you're like, oh, this is not always what it looked like.
And I am definitely of the opinion that the problems that you have are objective. The problems that people have in general are objective, and they are a problem, and they should not be present. But I'm not going to pretend like those experiences, I had the same experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with Pokemon in general, is that a majority of the fans are just casual gamers. Out of any gaming franchise,
this is the one,
you have way more casual. Yeah, this is the one with the most casual players.
The problem is, is you and I are both aware, and I think maybe not skirting around, but just aware of the presence of two very vocal groups of people, right? Who are like, Ron, you're accepting mediocrity from the biggest grossing media franchise, you're part of the problem. Or who are like, Toby, so what? I'm not allowed to enjoy the game? And because you didn't enjoy the game, and so we should all decry this game, and you completely missed the point, and you're part of the problem. We should this was a huge step in the right direction, and that kind of thing. And it's very vocal, when in fact there's very reasonable positions I think to be had on that scale, where probably a lot of people sit. But
yeah, people
get angry. People get really angry.
It's crazy. It's crazy that we found something even more divisive than the Dex cut.
Yeah, right. It's kind of wild.
I think because the Dex cut is subjective, and here both are objective. Where it's people are objectively not having some of these problems and are literally just not seeing them. While on the other hand, these problems do exist, and even if it was literally just 5% of people having this problem, that's a problem. A game should not ship with these problems.
Yeah.
Right. So it's they're both objective problems. But it's some people just cannot fathom the other person's position. While Dex Cut, I can understand why you want to have more Pokemon in your game. That's really it. But I don't care about the amount of Pokemon in my game.
This is where it crossed. Maybe where it crosses the line is, maybe this is just how subjective and flimsy we all are. Is that the tree in Sword and Shield, for example, that has never bothered me, not even for a second. Right? It's just it's a tree, and I don't care. Maybe it is literally the fact that it affected me this time. And so, although I suppose we all had the same tree in Scarlet in Sword and Shield, this is, whereas, we had different things. And the thing is,
exactly.
Some people were like, oh, yeah, but that's, really funny. I posted a video of, a gold duck walking in the sky. And, you're right, in isolation, that's really funny. If I was seeing that in isolation, it would be this is the funniest thing. I think I had something like that in Legends Arceus, Braviary was flying sideways or something, and I was like, that's great.
But that has happened. I did get a lot of that in Arceus. I don't understand. People were complaining about the performance of Arceus. Now everybody's it was good. No, it was bad. It wasn't as bad as Scarlet and Violet, I agree. But in terms of glitches, not glitches, but in terms of visual glitches.
So I don't remember Arceus ever being as bad as that in terms of visual glitches at all, actually. So did you have that with Arceus?
There were, I would see a Pokemon do something stupid that it was not Pokemon to do.
But how often, I guess, is the question. How often was that your experience of Arceus?
As often as I see a problem in Scarlet and Violet.
Right, okay. So that's where we're having wildly different experiences.
Yeah.
For me,
okay, so here's
I'm getting visual glitches like every sort of like 3 minutes, you know. And then there's also like on top of that, I just don't find the environments particularly pleasing to look at.
That's weird because the environments to me are way better than Arceus. Like for example, the layout specifically. The layouts are way more fun to traverse.
Oh yeah, they're more
Arceus.
fun to traverse, but they're not. In my mind, they're not beautiful to look. Oh, I see. I don't see that. To me, they look. And it's not about what's been chosen to put on screen. Like I think it has a more vibrant look to it all.
Yeah.
It's the fact that things are popping in and out and rendering in and complete walls of cliff sides will just glitch out for like a half second or
that definitely happened in Arceus. I don't know what you're talking about that.
That
like,
did
things
not
in the
happen
distance. Things in the distance will pop in and out. Like big structures.
Oh, but I'm talking about things close up. I'm talking about things like everywhere on screen. And I was experiencing that for about 90% of my gameplay time in Scarlet and Violet. So
the number one thing that I do see, is a mountain in the background, coming in and out. Like a big mountain. It's like something that you see on screen.
Sure, yeah.
Not like a small Pokemon in the distance. That is the number one thing that I see. And again, I don't think that's a glitch. That's just terrible performance.
No. And I agree with that.
That's the problem, that we don't know. People in general, including me, don't know what to define as a glitch or not. So when everybody's like, I encounter glitches every 3 minutes, that seems insane.
Okay.
But
no,
so
I am having glitches every 3 minutes. Like,
here's the thing, I haven't encountered any glitch, if that's what you're talking about. In terms of what
you've never had a point where like, just like, you're just walking along and there's like a cliff face, sort of like not 5 feet from you, and it just like stops existing for like a third of a second and then pops back in.
How close to me?
Just like the distance, I don't know, just close to you. Like not like in the far distance. We're talking about like within, the radius where Pokemon are and that kind of thing.
No.
Okay, so I get that.
Nothing near me has ever, other than humans and Pokemon, nothing has popped in and out.
Well, yeah, no. I'm getting like, walls of buildings and all sorts, and when you and walls of like cliff sides and stuff like.
Maybe the camera, like clipping through it, and then
no.
geometry disappear.
It's stuff just like in front of me. Like so I get that, but then on top of that, you've got the people. On top of that, you've got the houses where like some of the. So first of all, I hate that you can't go in the houses. That's a different issue. But like you go to the door, and like sometimes you collide with the door. But sometimes you go through the door, and then you like half collide with the door, and then. When you're like entering and exiting the shops, there are these really awkward transitions. Awkward transitions exist throughout the game. The frame rate is obviously then exacerbated by these things. And the people in Mesagoza City are like living in a simulation. And if people are enjoying it, that's great. Like I see comments. Because I'm getting quite passionate now, I guess. I see comments that like it's still enjoyable and fun, but why does it? Oh, right, yeah, and like if people,
it's what we're saying that like these
enjoy
things
it,
objectively exist.
Yeah, like I say, like for me, there's a really fun game that I like some of the most fun, but that I feel like you have to work really hard to get it. And I think where Pokemon maybe falls short a little bit is I feel like if I was a new player today, like picking up, this was my first Pokemon experience. First of all, as a long-term fan, I'm obviously disappointed that it's not where I feel it should be, but then for like a new fan, like I cannot imagine someone sticking around.
If you're a 10-year-old playing this game,
I think
I
if
don't
you're
think you notice.
I think if you're a 10-year-old who's playing this game, who's played any other game or a number of other games,
a lot of games have problems too. But yes, continue.
Yeah, no, of course, plenty of games do have problems, but like I think like lots of games also don't have problems, and so. Or don't have problems to this degree. And I think the options that are out there right now, even on mobile, like just rival this. And, I think if you were a kid nowadays, you're probably thinking, maybe I'll pick it up again later.
Yeah. And me saying that other games have problems too wasn't an excuse. It was more like in terms of like noticing the problems.
Yeah.
Like, again, this is the last thing I'm going to say. The flaws objectively exist. It's all about just your sensitivity and how much you're enjoying the other things, whether or not you literally care about these flaws. And it's the first time that you, as a huge Pokemon fan, those other things did not make you, did not surpass your negative opinions.
I'm happy for you. I'm happy for other people. Like genuinely, dude, it's great. I just there's a
No, but the thing is, we're not happy.
wish I had
The
that.
problem is that I'm not happy that everybody else is not enjoying. That doesn't. It doesn't even help. Saying that when people say
I
that.
suppose. Yeah.
The question is, when you were playing, how often would you take breaks? Like how often would you close the Switch and stuff?
How often did I take breaks? The first day, actually, quite a lot. I didn't play a lot on day. I played it over the course of about 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, I took pretty regular breaks. I don't have a specific time in mind. I did find, and like, oh, by the way, if anyone is experiencing these issues and you're listening, I've heard moving the game to the internal storage can help from the SD card, and like if you're like having so many issues, powering off the whole Switch and starting over can, like, not starting the game over, like just powering back on. That
because of the memory
helps.
leak.
Yeah, that's what
I'd
I've
say.
heard.
I don't know how much percentage. I'm gonna randomly throw a number. Let's say 30% of the performance issue is the memory leak, I assume.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, because I naturally do take breaks every hour or two. I feel like that could contribute to the fact that my performance is way better.
Do you turn your Switch off when you do that? When you take a break?
Yeah.
Like fully power down?
Yeah, why not? It takes a second.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna go to eat. Maybe just do other things. I had to edit some stuff. Like it's weird because like when I was watching some reviews or some people just complain in a neutral sense, not like I'm saying that they suck for complaining. When I see people complaining and showing me like footage of like look at the frame rate of this thing when I was jumping or whatever, and I'm like, I literally don't see what the problem is.
Oh. Well,
I'm not saying that the problem doesn't exist. Again, if you have a problem with it, it's more like I literally do not see how the frame rate affects your enjoyment of the game at that specific example.
Yeah.
There are definitely points where it did. The only two places that the performance was consistently bad were like the forests. So like
okay.
the Graphite forest and the bamboo forest. Those are the only times where where I assume that's how you felt.
Okay. And what did you feel? I'm interested. What did you kind of get in that moment?
Yeah, then I was like, because that was like, it was, again, the other glitches weren't, it's literally only when frame rate is the only problem for me. And I get that, because this game, yes, it has the most slowdown than any other Pokemon game. But when it was as bad there, I would understand, because it's literally, you are literally going, 90% of the time you're going in half the speed.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you're getting, because that's crazy if that's what's happening. For everybody, for everywhere else.
I mean, not like 90% of the time, but like, yeah, it's pretty apparent. So when you were in Mesagoza City for the first time and like you go to the school, did you not, maybe you didn't, I don't know. There's a couple kids at the back of the classroom that are like waving. Yeah, there's like a cutscene and they're like waving, but their arm is moving like, it's like, jumping. Did you not know? Like, does that? I mean, that's again funny in isolation. Like totally funny in isolation. It's just like by the time I'm there, I'm like crying. Like, oh my god, it's still happening. You know what I mean?
So those are objectively bad things that should not be in the game. But here's how I play a game because I'm not a gamer. I know that when I'm playing, I am playing a game. And I just assume, especially since most of the games I play are Pokemon games, that it's gonna look janky, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing. And that's just the reality. Like this is not how we should go on.
No.
But the reality is, after playing 20 years of basically only Pokemon, relatively, that's what you expect, you know? I've never played Pokemon for the graphics or for the frame rate. But the literal core things, the things that I come back for Pokemon games are literally the best in this game, and I came back and I had the best time of my life.
Fair enough.
Because what I bought the game for definitely provided.
Was in the game for you. Yeah, fair enough. See, I don't know that.
And the last thing is that when I'm playing a Pokemon game, especially when I see the graphics and it's graphically in terms of like how many things there are in the game in terms of just to look at. There's way more in this game than other games, right? It's just a bigger world.
Yeah.
Objectively. But I'm not in it. I don't come in playing thinking that I'm going to be seeing realistic looking things, you know?
No, sure.
And that unfortunately comes with also the frame rate,
so
the characters, the robotic movements.
It hits that point where for me it's like no, like when I play a Pokemon game, I'm not expecting the best graphics in the world by any means, right? But like with Sword and Shield, even though they weren't necessarily like cutting edge or anything, it was consistent across the game. Like the game experience was like, oh, this is the quality marker where this is. But with Scarlet and Violet, like I say, like the textures are stunning of the Pokemon. So you've got these like really incredible looking Pokemon, but then they're juxtaposed by like jaggedy edges and frame drops and things popping in and out and shadows and stuff. And so like you kind of get the feeling that like this isn't what they wanted. This feels unpolished. There are elements of the game, you know, and so that's I think where the issue is. Like, no, I'm not expecting the best graphics in the world, but you don't expect anything to look wrong. If it looks wrong, it's like something's messed up somewhere. You know, that's just certainly where I'm at. I don't see.
It is objectively wrong. It should not be the way it is. Yes.
All right.
I agree.
Well,
that's the problem.
A very reasonable discussion. Like, I think it's a very, you know, I would like to hope that the people listening to the Calm Mind podcast, whether live or on YouTube a week later, still have a calm mind about it and are not feeling the need to tear other people down on Twitter because they didn't like the game and other people shouldn't like it as well. And, you know, and that people are understanding of, like, why some people are kind of disappointed. But, you know,
in the end, the problem isn't whether or not these flaws exist or we consider them flaws. It's whether or not they detract from the experience, and that's where people disagree.
Can we end
and
on?
You can't be objective about that.
Yeah,
that's literally you're never going to find an answer to that question because everybody's going to have a different experience. I think everybody should agree that these problems should not exist, but I think everybody should agree that it is very much possible for this to be one of the most fun Pokemon experiences for a lot of people.
Mm. That's kind of where I think, should we try and end on like a high note? What was your favorite part of the experience? Like overall?
Here's the thing. So I'm looking at my outline for my review, and we literally, the format of my review is literally going from like things that I like the least to the most. So like the first section is performance. Then the section after that is visuals and presentation. Then it's gameplay. Then it's the new Pokemon. Then it's the region. Then it's the characters. Then the story. Then the post game. And then music.
Yeah, I knew. I was waiting for music to come up there.
Obviously, I like the story more than the post game. And I like, for example, I think the performance is amazing, even though not the performance. I think the gameplay is great, even though it was relatively in the beginning, because you have to talk about the gameplay. You can't leave the gameplay at the end.
Yeah.
But for example, we just talked about performance and visuals. So that's the first two sections of my review, basically. I think the next episode, we're going to definitely talk about just general gameplay, which is probably more neutral for you.
Oh, yeah.
And then
probably quite positive, to be honest. Like,
then like the region. And then maybe the episode after that, characters, story, and post-game, stuff like that.
Yeah. I want to end on not sounding like a depressing thing, but like person, though. So can I encourage anyone who's not yet finished the game to go to history class. Go to history class and seek out what mission may come your way through that, because it is like one of the most fun things I've done in a Pokemon game in a long time.
It's definitely well executed.
I thought it was very well executed. But we can talk about that more next week. But yeah, there is stuff in here that I think is brilliant as well. So
yeah, that's the thing. Imagine playing this game, literally not caring, not caring about the things, not because you're apathetic, but just literally because they don't affect you.
Yep.
Not caring about the presentation and the visuals as much as others. And then you have all these awesome positive things.
Yeah.
That's the experience for a lot of these people. And even a lot of Poketubers. Yeah. Well, I mean, who cares about what Poketubers think? Let's just say general Pokemon fans. I think the general consensus is that these are a huge step in the right direction in terms of everything but the performance and visuals.
Yeah.
I mean, even the visuals are, like, technically, a lot of people think they're better than Generation 8, let's say. I prefer the art style, actually, of Generation 8. That's a separate, I mean, we've talked about it in the podcast. But art style is the most subjective thing. So I can't really, there's no point of saying why I prefer the art style, honestly. I like the cartoony look of, I think up until Generation 8, Pokemon looked like Pokemon. Like, it had a consistent, like, look.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think, like, the 3D games, like, from Generation 6, 7, 8, did a good job of mimicking the art style of the previous games in 3D. Obviously, they're not going to be pixelated.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But in terms of, it looked like Pokemon, but in 3D.
Yeah. It was very natural in terms of progression.
While I mean, Arceus was intentionally a different art style. This is the mainline. I mean, Arceus is a mainline series, but you know what I mean. We need to find a name for the mainline series games that are the first, like, you know what I mean. Ruby Sapphire, Diamond and Pearl, those games. What are those? Like not like discounting Emerald, Platinum. I'm talking like the ones, the first ones of the region.
Just the core series.
No, because that is Emerald is a core series, but I'm talking about the flagship. Like, what do you guys in the chat like? What would you call?
Yeah,
the debut
generation 8 titles, I guess. Yeah,
whatever. This is the first debut title that does not match the art style of all the previous games. In terms, I mean, even like character design, some of it is different. But when you see the official art for a lot of the characters, they look exactly like Pokemon characters. But yeah, but that's not a problem. It's just that I prefer the previous style.
I'm looking forward to talking more gameplay and positives with you. To be honest, that's probably
games.
The base games. Yeah,
base games.
That's probably where we'll jump in next week, right?
Yeah. Gameplay?
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I say next week. For those of you who are listening to this live, it'll be next week. So come back at the same time next week. We're going to try and keep it pretty consistent to hear that.
3 p.m. on Fridays Eastern Time.
And that's at 8 p.m. GMT.
And that means... Yeah, GMT, sorry. That also means that, except for this episode, this week, starting next week, we also will release the VOD episodes right after we finish the podcast.
Yes, of the previous week.
Once we're done being live, we release the podcast that was recorded 2 weeks earlier live.
Yeah. We're doing that this week. We're doing that this week with the last pre-recorded podcast, aren't we?
No, we are not. We are not releasing it.
Oh, we're not doing that? So episode 30 will come out. Oh, I see. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Week.
Got ya. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It's weird that I labeled this episode 32. I don't know why.
Same. I did the same thing, but it's not as 31.
So I have a folder called 31. What happened to that? Like, why is there a 31?
I don't know. You'll have to.
This is a cursed folder that just appeared in our computer.
Maybe we should just skip 31.
Is it like it's like the opposite of 13? So like, you know how...
Oh, it's like a curse number.
It's like a curse number, so people sometimes don't do it. In Hebrew, 13 or just in Judaism, 13 is not a curse number. It's a pretty fine number, actually.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Bye.